This video right here is going to be about profit crafting in 3.24 Necropolis, and I'm also going to give you 3 crafts that I think they will work in the next league. But please bear in mind, I'm not sure, there's no certainty that these crafts will work because they did some changes to the Atlas tree and to Sextant and Scarabs, and I don't know how these changes will impact the prices of the materials. They also removed Veiled Chaos Orb. In the video description I'm going to leave a few links to some of the items that I crafted using Craft of Exile, and there you can see the total materials that it took me to craft 30 pairs of boots, 30 Stygian Vises and 30 rings. The only thing that is not included the cost of the bases and the Fertile Catalyst for the Stygian Vises. Also, you need to pay attention to the items that I crafted because those are items that I would personally list for sale at league start. Some of those items may seem cheesy, may seem like they're not good enough, but trust me, if you price them accordingly, some people will buy them. Very rarely it's going to happen that those items will not sell. Sometimes it will happen that some Stygian Vises will not sell, but you still have the base with Fertile Catalyst on it, so you can reuse it later. But in general, the rings and the boots that you will see in those pictures will actually sell. And you have to understand, with profit crafting, you do not need to craft really good items. You just need to craft items that will sell. That's it. Even if you make like 30 or 40 chaos profit crafting that item, you just sell it like that. Even if it's a bad item, somebody is going to buy it because not everybody has enough currency to buy really good items, and they will settle for less. And you have to understand that there are different needs. Customers have different needs and you need to fulfill them. So when you think about profit crafting, just remember, you need to craft items that will sell. You don't need to craft perfect items. Now, before I show you the actual crafts, I want to talk about profit crafting and why you may want to do it or not want to do it. The most obvious reason for wanting to do profit crafting is that you make a lot of currency. At least in the previous leagues I made about 30 divides an hour crafting. There are some downsides though. You are not going to see this currency immediately. If you are mapping, for example, you map for 5 hours, at the end of those 5 hours you can liquidate everything and have most of the currency in your stash. With crafting it's not like that. It depends on what items you're crafting, but on average it takes a couple of days for the items to sell. And in order for those items to be sold, you need to be online. So this is very important. If you play for like 2 or 3 hours a day, or if you have Path of Exile opened for like 2 or 3 hours a day, then you're not going to make much with crafting because you basically need to have your computer open and people can whisper you to buy the items from you. And you need to be at your computer for many hours to also respond to trades. Another downside, I don't know how to explain this one, but when you are doing profit crafting and you have lots of items, if you just simply go to the bathroom, you will miss a couple divines worth of trades. If you just want to rest a little bit, take a break for like 20 minutes, and then you come back to your PC, you will see that you missed like 20-30 divines worth of trades. And it's a really weird feeling. It forces you to be at your computer and it's not nice, it's not something pleasant. So I think most of you will not enjoy crafting. It is profitable, but it's really stressful in a sense. Especially, I mean, if you play the game, if you're constantly at your PC, then that's fine. But sometimes you just want to take a break, sometimes you just want to go outside. And if you just leave your computer open, you can just see that you miss like 20, 30, 40 divines worth of trades just by simply going away for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. And it's really annoying. I don't know how to explain this feeling. Another downside to crafting is probably going to be the fact that it's risky. Sometimes you're going to take risks, sometimes you're going to craft items and you're going to lose money. And some people may not like that. And probably the last major downside of crafting is going to be the fact that you cannot invest into your character. You are kind of forced to keep buying materials, to keep crafting over and over. Whereas if you're doing mapping, at the end of the day, whatever currency you have in your stash, you can invest that into your character, you can upgrade your gear, But with crafting it's different. You have to buy materials to make crafting even more efficient, to make even more profit. Because crafting is really expensive. If you think about it, you're going to spend, like with some crafts, 20, 30, maybe even 40 divines an hour just crafting them. And they will not sell in 1 hour, they will sell in a couple of hours or in a couple of days. So you need to invest as much as possible into buying crafting materials. Basically all the currency you have is going to be gone buying materials for crafting. Now I'm going to cover how you craft Stygian Vises, a profit craft that worked for me many leagues, but I'm only going to talk about the version that uses Fertile Catalyst and Deafening Essences of Envy. If you want to do this craft day 1 or day 2, you are probably going to use Screaming Essences or Shrieking Essences of Envy, and you will not use Fertile Catalyst. You first need to buy the bases. The way you buy the bases is by going to this Discord. It's called the Forbidden Trove, and here is going to be a channel similar to this one, but instead of saying standard, it's going to say Necropolis bulk. And you will just go to people that will sell Stygian Vises. Basically you'll pay like 8 to 10 euros per one piece, and you'll buy like 40 or 60 of them at a time. These are the modifiers that are most important on Stygian Vise. All these modifiers right here work and they will sell, but the most important modifier is going to be a high tier of maximum life. Having perfect suffixes, it's nice, but having tier 1 maximum life is most important when it comes to selling a belt for a high price. So tier 1 or tier 2 of maximum life, it's desirable because these belts sell the best. Now I'm going to go over some crafts. So first, how you start. You have this belt right here. What you do, so let's just say that you buy a random belt from this from the Discord. The first thing you do, you just scour these belts. You make them white, and then you will apply Fertile Catalyst. If you apply Fertile Catalyst while they are white, it will only take 4. But if, let's say, that they are rare and you apply Fertile Catalyst, it will take you 20. So this will be the first step. And then you just spam Essences of Envy. Deafening Essences of Envy. Like this. Now I'm going to go over some crafting examples and how to deal with them. First, we have this right here. Basically, you have a high tier of maximum life and chaos resistance. The other prefixes or suffixes are not important. What you're going to do in this case, you're going to use an Orb of Annulment. You are only going to use a Orb of Annulment when you have a high tier of maximum life, like tier 2, tier 3, tier 1. Apart from that, you're not going to use an Orb of Annulment. If this happens, what I suggest you do is use Beast Crafting, remove suffix, add prefix, because you don't want to remove the maximum life. This way you have a chance of removing stun and block recovery. Like this. At this point, you are just going to exalt. If you want, you can benchcraft something to block, but it's really not that important. But let's just say that you exalt. Let's just say that you exalt a good suffix. Getting really unlucky. If you happen to exalt a really good suffix, you just craft another resistance. And you sell the belt. That's it. Another example would be this one right here. What you can do, you can either play it safe and just craft another resistance. And try to sell it this way. Or you can try to gamble. And what I mean by that is you craft a prefix. usually increased elemental damage with attacks or armor and evasion. And now you're going to Exalt them. But if you have, like I have in this case, which is 2 empty prefixes, you are going to first craft maximum mana. And then you use an Exalt. Because there is a chance that they give you a good prefix, such as increased elemental damage with attacks, or a high tier of armor and armor, basically. Now, if your item looks like this, what you're going to do, you're not going to Exalt. Pay attention that I don't have a second prefix. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to craft increased elemental damage with attacks, and I'm just going to use this Hunter's Exalted Orb, because there's a chance that it gives me increased percent life. And if it gives me, like in this case, increased maximum life, I could sell this belt for like 12, 13, 15 divines. Usually you don't want to Exalt for maximum life, for increased maximum life, because it's very difficult to get. But if you happen to have a belt that looks like this, let's just say that you have one bad prefix, what you're going to do, you're going to craft either mana, benchcraft. You're going to craft mana, but if mana is not possible, you're going to craft armor and energy shield. And you're just going to Exalt them. Now, it can happen that it ruins your item like it did in this case, and it gave me the lowest tier of maximum life. But sometimes you can get lucky, and you can get, like in this case, and if this happens, I got tier 1 maximum life, and I just go craft armor. Basically, this belt I can sell it for like 10, 8 divines. Maybe even more, to be honest. This example right here, I already covered it. It's basically you're just going to use the Hunter's Exalted Orb and hope for a very good prefix, like increased maximum life. And that's basically how you craft Stygian Vises. So now let's cover how you craft rings for profit. First, you need a base with fractured maximum life. At League Start, you cannot get tier 1 maximum life. You need to go for tier 2 because tier 1 is too expensive and too rare. Very important that they are level 84 or higher. You pay about 20 to 30 kills for such a base. These are all the modifiers that sell. And keep in mind, when you are crafting these rings, if you make a profit of 20-30 kills per ring, just sell it. You don't need to craft the perfect ring. You just craft a ring that will yield you like 20, 30, 40, 50 kills profit. You just sell it. You don't even bother. Now, these rings are quite easy to craft. What you do, basically you go and reforge harvest, reforge chaos. And if you happen to have a ring that looks like this, you're just going to use Orb of Annulment. But let's just say that it has full prefixes because you basically want one prefix. What you're going to do in this case, you're going to go Bestiary Crafting, remove prefix, add suffix. There's a very high chance that it will give you a good suffix. Let's do this again. For example, accuracy is really good. And right now, if I just go to the bench and craft non-channeling skills, have minus mana cost, you can probably sell this ring for about 5 divines, to be honest. And this is basically how you craft these rings. It's quite straightforward. You just need some life force, some Orb of Annulment, some exalts, and that's basically it. Now let's cover how you craft boots for profit. First, you will need a base that has 13% chance to suppress spell damage. Do not go for 14% because it's going to be too expensive. ideally if you can get it with item level 86. And it must be a dexterity base only. You don't want any armor or energy shield, just evasion. What you do, you just spam Deafening Essences of Envy until you hit a really good suffix, like tier 1, tier 2 life regen, dexterity tier 1 or tier 2, or a high tier of elemental resistance. If you happen to have empty prefixes, like 2 empty prefixes, what you do, you just craft either evasion rating so you craft either percent increased evasion rating and then you exalt, hoping for movement speed or maximum life. Or if you cannot craft increased percent evasion rating, you just craft flat evasion rating. And you just exalt for high tier of movement speed. If you have this, you just go craft maximum life. And if you get a high tier of maximum life, you just craft movement speed. And you sell these boots. Now, what you do if you have full prefixes, let's just say that you have, your item looks like this. In this case, what you do, you use Eldritch Currency, which is going to be, you're going to use a lesser, you're going to make this item Searing Exarch dominant, and you're going to use an Eldritch Chaos Orb. For example, in this case, I would just craft movement speed, and I'll try to sell this pair of boots for a little bit of profit. But let's just say that it doesn't give you maximum life when you use the Eldritch Chaos Orb, it gives you something else. Like this. If it gives you something like this, you're going to craft either flat or percent evasion rating, and you're just going to use an exalt, and then you're going to repeat the process. Like this, I got tier 1 maximum life, and I'm just going to craft movement speed. That's basically all you do.